manager at a car dealership in the southeastern part of the country. At the time, I worked closely with a salesman named Eli. Eli was different. He walked with a limp. His left leg never fully worked, and he barely talked about his past. He was 27 when he joined us, but he carried himself like someone who had already lived a lifetime. When Eli first came in for an interview, we almost didn't hire him. He had no clear work history, no references, and no real explanation for where he'd been since leaving home at 20. But he answered every question calmly, intelligently. There was something intense about him, like he needed this job to survive, so we hired him. At first, things seemed normal. We even had a small company dinner to welcome him. That's when he mentioned, almost casually, that he didn't really have a place to stay. For a while, he had been sleeping in bathhouses and cheap overnight spas. I couldn't let him stay in the office, but I arranged for him to use an unused security room in the building. The staff helped him too, bringing food, checking on him. Eli worked harder than anyone I'd ever seen. Within a year, he was one of our top salesmen. He bought a cheap car, then a tiny apartment. He was finally standing on his own. That's when the company decided to go on a summer outing. Eli suggested a remote valley he'd heard about, hidden behind a mountain near an old reservoir. He said no one lived there anymore. No tourists, no noise, just water and trees. But he had one condition. "There's a village near the entrance," he warned us. "Don't go through it. Take the trail around the back." We didn't listen. When we drove into the village, an older man immediately stopped us. He told us to leave. No fishing, no swimming, no trespassing. Then he looked straight at Eli. "Eli," he said. Eli didn't respond. He just stared ahead. The man frowned. "So you came back." A pastor came out of a small church nearby and overruled him, allowing us to pass. But the way the older man looked at Eli, it wasn't recognition, it was fear. We enjoyed the day, but I noticed something strange. The church had a cross outside, but something about it felt wrong. I couldn't explain it. Later that night, I drank with Eli. For the first time he opened up, that village was where he grew up. He wasn't their biological child. When he was young, he overheard his parents speaking to the pastor. They said their real son was cursed, destined to die before turning 30. So they adopted a child, Eli. The belief was simple. If another child carried the burden, their real son would live. Every Thursday, Eli and 3 other children were beaten publicly at church. Not punished, offered. He was never sent to school beyond the village, never allowed outside, watched constantly. At 17, he tried to escape. He was caught. That night, his leg was broken. Years later, he finally succeeded, hiding in a cave, crawling over mountains until he reached a road. A truck driver picked him up. That road led him to our city, to us. I wanted to go back, to report the village. Eli begged me not to, so I went alone. On a Thursday evening, I watched from the hillside. The church was filled. Everything looked normal until night fell. That's when I noticed it, the cross. In daylight, it looked ordinary. But when the neon lights turned on, the cross flipped upside down. That night, I told Eli. He snapped, told me to never bring it up again. A few days later, I slept at his apartment after drinking. I woke up to footsteps. Not limping, normal footsteps. I saw Eli reflected in a glossy cabinet, standing over plastic sheets on the floor, holding a military knife. I ran. The door was locked from the inside. He came at me. I fought. I was cut badly. Somehow I escaped through a third-floor window and hid outside. He followed. I screamed. A car stopped. 4 college students jumped out. Eli turned and ran. The police never found him. No fingerprints, no records, no identity. 6 years later, I saw him on the news. A cult enforcer, one of the men responsible for killing members who tried to escape. Authorities later excavated the old church. They found bones beneath the tree, children's bones. To this day, I believe something strange happened that night. Eli could have killed me. He didn't. And sometimes I wonder if the reason I lived was because he was never meant to.